Hello, my Teaserking family. How is everybody today? Hope you are well. So, I just got my job. I'm very excited about that. They like me, and see right away. See, you can tell they're not dicking around. Interview Friday morning, Monday, I got it. They don't want to lose me. The other people are dicking around since May. I don't think I'd want to work for them if they said, "Oh, we want you now." Fuck off. Where were you for 4 months? Anyway, perfect timing. I'll probably start in about 2 weeks. I have an interview tomorrow with the team. So they can say, "Oh, this guy's an idiot. We don't want to work with him or not." So I'll be gentle. And perfect. We're just ironing out the pay. And more importantly, I can run it by, if I get the offer on Tuesday, I just got to do a drug test, which I don't do. Drugs and a background check, which are fine. Then I can start buying more gold. So perfect. I did my last unemployment today. Next Monday, I get my Social Security, which will probably be the last Social Security of the year because the way they do it, I have, if I make so much money, which I obviously will now, then I have to pay back the Social Security. So I don't want any more Social Security because I'll have to pay it back. So that's freaking ridiculous. Anyway, so what a gold abortion, huh? Gold's up to 24.56, and look at this derivative from 4 in the morning to 8 in the morning. It drops 24.40 to 23, drops $80. How the fuck does it drop $80? Fortunately, it's back up to 24.08. So they're just playing the game. And this is why they're doing it. They make money on the derivatives. So they'll keep doing it. Now they get caught too often, and if they don't have gold, they can't do it. But see, now people are, and I think they're letting them do it because instead of paying 24.41, China can buy the gold for 23.68. That's why they're doing it. So there is a method to the madness. If I wanted to buy the Montana card, of course I want it to go down and I want it to be cheaper. So that's really the other end of the manipulation. Part of it is to keep the gold price down, not to compete with the central bank. The other part is I want to buy it cheaper. And that's what they're doing. So anyway, that's what's happening. So I'm very excited. I survived well without the job, but I'm very happy I got it. Now, the last job I got in August was Mercedes, and we know how good that was. 4 years, great job. This is work from home, 4 days, work in the office 1. And more than likely, I can take a vacation and work from Barcelona or Russia or any of these to meet the girls. And I can just work from there. What do I have to be in my apartment, my living room in Detroit? Why can't I be in my hotel or at the pool, in Barcelona? So, but that'll come later. So I might sneak off for vacation now, knowing I don't start for 2 weeks and get that in because now I'm working. So who cares, right? So happy. More gold. I get to buy more gold. All right, silver is just so on sale. 27.13. They need silver for the solar panels. So all they're doing is lowering the price of the silver so they can buy it for the solar panels. That's it. I mean, this is basically I'm lowering things so you can buy them cheaper. What a great, if only they could do this for houses and cars. Yeah, I want to buy that Mercedes for $20,000. Let's do derivatives and get the price down. Anyway, so that's gold. But I got more from Egon, which let me read the Egon stuff and then we'll go to baseball. I think it's more important. So Egon, I went into his Egon, I was on Twitter and Egon had, and I follow Egon and he posted some stuff. So I want to read it here. So silver moving fast to $50. And this is post he just did a day or two ago. Silver is now starting the acceleration phase. Well, somebody didn't tell him it's down to 27. $50 should not take long to reach, but the pause there will be temporary. Gold should reach around 3,400 in this move on the way to much higher levels. Luke, Bobby? Biggest wealth transfer in history. Gold and silver now starting an acceleration phase up as stocks move into a secular downtrend. We won't see a 2008 gold correction. Well, it's all derivatives anyway, so I don't think so. Instead, tech stocks will lose 88 to 98% of their versus gold. And by the way, the market's down $900 today. With trillions in USTs repricing in 2024 treasuries and over $700 billion in zombie bonds from S&P issuers doing the same, if Powell doesn't cut rates, then sovereign and corporate bond markets are staring down a loaded barrel. He can't cut rates. Inflation. Central bankers continue to steadily devalue their currencies and inherit purchasing power. Well, you're inflating it. So again, he's not sure what he's saying, but I'll read it. Central banks continue to print money, which destroys the value of the money, inevitably raising the levels of mouse-click fiat money, the ultimate but largely invisible insult to our children and grandchildren generation. When will this vicious cycle end? When we go gold. That's when it ends. Global debt has already tripled this century, with the dollar and most currencies having lost 98.5% of their purchasing power since 1971, meaning that the dollar and most currencies have 1% left. So $100 in 1971 would buy you X, Y, and Z. Now they're worth $1.50. So the $100 in 71 is worth $1.50 now. That's the difference, and that's the bottom line. With global debt at around 350 trillion and global GDP 100 million, the global debt to GDP is 350%, meaning you only make $100 trillion. This is global. You only make $100 trillion, but you owe 350 trillion. There's no way you can pay it back. You're fucked. Over 100% debt to GDP is unsustainable and cannot be financed over the long term. And 350% debt to GDP is bankruptcy. So we are bankrupt, as I said. Both central banks, sovereign wealth funds, and investors will turn to gold as the most stable part of a crumbling system. This will lead to a fundamental revaluation of gold, as more gold cannot be produced, so therefore the prices go up. Just like the football games when the tickets You made so many tickets, and then Luke's brother gets some. You can't get any more tickets, so now prices go up. That's called demand oversupply. When there's more demand than supply, prices go up. Alternative gold is the most stable part of a crumbling system. This will lead to a fundamental revaluation of gold. As more gold cannot be produced, higher prices can only satisfy increased demand. See the statistics. Well, we don't need to see statistics. We know it. Then my friend put up the rock. He smells what he's cooking. He goes, I hope it's true. I says, well, I'm sure Egon's, coming from Egon, I'd buy it. I said, we're stoic. We know what's right and going on. I also have the same thing. That's why you learn. If you learn, then when they say something, you go, no, that does that's what I do with like Peter Schiff or Andy Scheckman or Reichert or Rule. I know my shit. So when they talk, I can say, no, they're wrong. But when they're right, I can agree with them. Like Egon, I can say, yes, what he said is right. But if it's Peter Schiff, I go, this guy's full of shit, doesn't know what he's talking about. That's the difference, right? So that's what I got out of Egon. And let's see. So I got some videos, but we'll get into those later. Let's go to baseball. Anyway, stock markets are down about 900 points. A lot of the big ones are down, Amazon and Apple. And then here's what happens. Warren Buffett sold a bunch of stocks today. Well, that's why they go down. If somebody sells $10 billion worth of Apple, well, of course it's going down. How can it not go down? Because the way the market is, it's a marketplace, supply and demand. If you're selling, if there's no buyers, the price has to drop. Anyway, let's look at baseball. Great day yesterday. All right. So we start off San Francisco over 9. They win 8-2. We get a 10 W. The Yankees over 9. Now they got rain delayed and everything, so they won 4-3, but we went over. Washington over 9. They play a 4-3 game, so it's a loser. Pittsburgh with Scanes, they lose 6-5, unfortunately. Baltimore, they win 9-5. Detroit under 8, a 3-2 game. Minnesota, Chicago has now lost 20 in a row. Houston over 8.5, play a 1-0 game. This was really weird. Both pitchers pitched have 5 ERAs, and you get this is the problem, right? They both have 5 ERAs. Oh, Houston can hit, Tampa, and then it's a 1-0. Texas over 8. They lose to Boston, but we don't care. It's 7-2 is a 9. That's a winner. Philadelphia under 7. They win 6-0. W. San Diego over 8 wins 10-2. That's a W. And the Cubbies over 9 wins 6-2, so they get an 8. So we go 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, 2-3, 3-3, 4-3, 4-4, 5-4, 6-4, 7-4. We go 7-5. Not bad picking 12 games. We still are winners. So very good for me. And let's go to 8-5. Today is 8-5, a very happy day for us. It's funny how certain months I get jobs and certain months I don't. It's funny how that one job is still open and they're still trying to get an answer. And now I can say, I already got another one. Go get somebody else. How does the VP and CFO like you and you don't work there? They got problems. Bad hiring managers. All right, 8-5. Nothing yet. We got a 5:15 start. The JETSs against the Cardinals. Cardinals hit Pittsburgh pretty good, so they're fired up. The Mets are -110-9. We got Sean Mania, 7-4 with the 3.50 against Andre Palantine, 4-5 with the 4.04. I didn't have a chance to update my stats. I got to do that. I think I'll do that later. And then there's a SQL class on YouTube, not a class, but just a video. I'll watch that. It's basically doing queries. SQL is like taking the data like I hear in baseball. And then I would say, give me the teams in the National League with an ERA under 4. And then I would get printed out. So out of the big database, I asked for those. It's really easy once you understand the logic. All this data, I want certain things. And I do it all the time in Excel. So if I get it in Excel, it'd be even easier. Anyway, happy camper. The best part is it's not automotive, it's utility. So being a utility, I am not worried about them going out like I am the cars with the electric cars, like at Harley. Oh, we don't have budget. So here, same thing. So we will see. Anyway, back to the Mets in St. Louis. Mania, 7-4 at 3.50. Palantine. I'm going to leave this go. The Mets lost yesterday. St. Louis beat the Pirates ace. So I think St. Louis wins, but I don't want to bet it. Arizona, Cleveland. Arizona's been playing good lately. Cleveland had a tough time with Baltimore. Arizona -120 and 8.5. Wow, in Cleveland. Zach Allen 9-5 at the 3.56. Logan Allen 8-4 at the 5.67. That's why. Very hard to go over in a Cleveland game because of the bullpen. They did get hammered by Baltimore, but Arizona doesn't have the hitting. Cleveland's a home dog. I'm going to take Cleveland because they're a home dog, basically. I'll just play it for 2 units. Cincinnati, Miami. Cincinnati -145, 8.5. Nick Martinez, 5-5 with the 3.65 for Cincinnati. Rodney Munoz, Rodney with 2 Ds, 2-5 with the 5.45. I don't know. I think this is probably an over game. We'll have to see if they're hitting better. So this is when I get teams like this, I just don't have a feel on them. I got to get a better feel. Probably an over. All right, I'm going to let that go. The 49ers and the Redskins. San Fran -165 and 9. Logan Webb, 8-8, 3.49 for the Niners. Patrick Corbin, 2-11 with the 5.88 for the Redskins. Let's go over 9 here. Three units. Houston and Texas. Hunter Brown, 9-7 with the 4.11 against Andrew Heaney, 411 with the 412. I don't know. I had Houston over yesterday. They lost 1-0. Hunter Brown's pretty good. Andrew Haney, 4-11 with a 4. I'm going to go Houston over here. 8.5. It's hard not to take Houston over with Altuve and Bregman and those guys. And Texas can hit. Hunter Brown, both pitchers have 4.11 ERAs, 4.12. So you should get some scores. You need 8.5. I can't take Texas. He needs 4-11 with the 4-12. How do you even bet that guy? Hunter Brown's okay. Game's in Texas. So I think we should see some scoring. Minnesota and Chicago, the Cubbies, or the Vikings and the Bears. Minnesota minus 125 and 8. We got David Festa for Minnesota, 1-2 with a 6.98. Kyle Hendricks, he sucks, 3-9 with a 6.86. We're going over Minnesota, over 8. We'll go 5 units here. Kyle Hendricks stinks. David Fiesta, 1-2 with this. Probably, I don't know what he is, but he ain't too good either. I mean, you got basically a 7 and a 7. How the fuck are you going to get a shutout here? Oh, they won 2-0. I mean, this is the problem with baseball. You get these bad pitchers, and then you get a 2-0 game. You're like, how am I supposed to analyze this if these guys with the bad ERAs shut you out? It's not supposed to happen. That's why they have 7 ERAs. If they're shutting you out, their ERAs should be 2. Boston and Kansas City, good matchup. KC minus 135 and 10. James Paxton, 8-3 with the 4.52. Brady Singer, 8-6 with the 2.88. Brady's been losing, but keeping the ERA. Over under a 10? Really? Paxton, 4 or 5. I'm just going to take Kansas City. I can't go over 10. That's ridiculous. KC's minus 130. How do you get an over 10 in Kansas City? In Boston, I get it. Colorado, I get it. In Kansas City, I don't get it. The White Sox in Oakland. So the White Sox have lost, 21 in a row now. And Oakland's a 185 favorite. So we're going to keep betting against the White Sox until they win. I'll put 3 units on Oakland. I'm basically betting against Chicago because they haven't won a game in a month. That's how you do it. You don't fuck around and say, oh, I'm going to take Chicago here against. You just keep going with the flow. If White Sox lost 20 in a row, why the fuck would you bet on the White Sox? You just keep betting the other team until they win. And when they win, okay, you're off of that and that ends. But that's what you're looking for. You want to bet on the streaks, not against the streaks. And the last game, good game, Philly and the Dodgers. Dodgers are 125 favorites, 7.5. Aaron Nola, 11-4 at the 3.43 against Tyler Glasnow, 8-6 at the 3.50. And there's no way in hell I'm betting this game under. I'm going Philly over. I got lucky yesterday. We went under, I think it was 7 or 8, and they won 6-0. I'm going over in this game. Well, I should take Philly. Yeah, let's take Philly. They're a dog. Let's take Philly, 3 units. Nola's the better pitcher. Glasnow's okay. It's hard to, Philly's been on the West Coast. I don't have a problem with it. Philly's a better team. 66-45. The Dodgers 65-47. The Dodgers have had a terrible bullpen. The 5 runs against the Tigers that cost them. So there you go. We got Cleveland, 2 units. The Niners over 3 units. Houston over 8.5, 3 units. Minnesota over 8, 5 units. Kansas City, 3 units. Oakland taking the Raiders, 3 units. And Philly, 3 units. That's today's baseball picks. I was looking a little at football, and they were saying that the 3 rookie starting quarterbacks will be Bo Nix, Caleb, and Daniels for Washington. And I was looking at Hartman, like, why the hell didn't he get drafted when Spencer Rattler did? And basically, they thought he had a bad year at Notre Dame. You know, he lost to Ohio State. Hardly his problem. He did beat USC, but doesn't get credit for that. I think they lost to Louisville, and I think they lost to Clemson. And you want to blame Hartman for that? Oh, okay. I think it's ridiculous not to look at his Wake Forest days. So if he stayed at Wake Forest, he'd have been the number one draft pick. But he goes to Notre Dame with a terrible coach who wants to run the ball a lot, and you want to blame him for that? Not sure about that. So that's our baseball. Anything else? I watched a little of the Olympics yesterday. I was bored in the movies, and there was two Olympic things that I liked. This one woman from Amsterdam, real tall with the real big legs, came in the 400 meter, and she was down by like 30 yards going into the bell lap. And the U.S. runners in front, and, coasting. And it was like, boom. And she started to go, and with her long strides, and she won. I was really happy for her. No, it was a team competition. It was the strangest thing I've ever seen. It was a man, woman in this four legs of the. There were like 400 or whatever. They each do one lap, and so she wins it for him. And it was like, yeah, that's the European woman, the power of them. And the U.S. lost. They came in second, I think. But it was fascinating because she was way down. I mean, she was 30, 40 yards off. And then I was watching a little of the swimming, and they like really jinxed the U.S. Oh, the U.S. men's. It's each one does a different stroke, one lap of the pool. So you're doing the breaststroke, the backstroke, the freestyle. And of course, they jinxed. The American men have won it every year since 1960, except for 1980 when it was in Russia and they didn't do it. And of course, they come in second to the Chinese. Now, where are the Chinese swimming? I thought everything was shit in China. So the same race, the different strokes, and the women killed them. So that's about all. So I would bet on that girl, the girl from Amsterdam, probably 6'3", and most of it legs, but she can run. So I would bet her to win the 100. No, she does the 400 hurdles or something, or I don't know what other events, but I would bet on her. She's a winner. I'm surprised, the Dallas Cowboys didn't draft her, like Bob Hayes. Oh yeah, then there was the other thing. There was the guy running the 100 meters, and he outsmarted the other guy. The guy from Jamaica won, but at the tape, the guy from U.S. like leached forward with like he touched the line with his foot first and leaned forward. And the other guy was like straight up, and the other guy beat him. And very exciting. And I didn't think he won. I thought, well, he didn't. It looked like the Jamaican won because you could see the yellow jersey and the U.S. was wearing, I think, blue. And And you could see though he got his head over, the long line before the guy's standing up, and he's leaning in, and let's do it this way. So anyway, he got him by just this much, but it shows you brains do work. All right. So not much football. We got college we got pros starting this. I think they start like next week. I think the 10th and 11th. I'm not looking at the lines. I don't care. Please don't bet. The only way I would bet preseason football is you take Baltimore because they always play well. You take Philadelphia because they're pissed how bad they played that they're going to play their guys. Kansas City, Mahomes and Kelsey will play. Most other teams are afraid to get their guys hurt, so they don't play anybody. You can't bet on fourth-team guys because you don't know what you're getting. But if you want to bet and you really need to bet and you can't get enough action with the baseball, bet Baltimore. Philly's going to play their guys because they got to work it out. And Kansas City with Mahomes. Herbert's hurt, but he should be ready to go. Aaron Rodgers, he doesn't need the snaps like Caleb needs the snaps, but keep an eye on him. And Bo Nix, I would imagine he'll play a little. I think Sean Payton will get him out there. He's your starter. The others aren't smart enough to play their players. They'll just not get anybody hurt, and then you wonder why they all go 8-8 or 8-9 now. Yeah, I don't know. Minnesota and these like Atlanta, man, you better get Penix out there. You think you're going to go with Kirk Cousins and Penix not having played? Are you kidding me? They got to get the timing down, and you're not doing it in practice. I'm sorry. There's a whole different space. It's like playing. It's like if you ever play golf, you go to the driving range and you tee it up and you hit and you tee it and hit and tee it and hit and tee it and hit. It's not the same as the course because the course you tee it up and hit one shot. Then you walk to the ball, take out an iron, and then you take out your wedge and then you take out your putter. And you go to the next tee, and so you're hitting the driver once, and then you're playing the hole. On the driving range, you're hitting the driver 50 times in a row if you want, and then you get that stroke down. But that's not how it works on the course. So that's what you got to do here. You've got to get everything down on the course, in the exhibition. You've got to. Daniels has to throw to his receivers, and you got to do that. You can't do it in practice. So I don't know anybody who doesn't need to practice, especially when Mahomes is out there. So anyway, let's look at the stock market. Stock markets around the world are crashing. But why? It's because of inflation. We all know that. They don't know that because they don't even understand what inflation is. But it's slowing the economy. Most of it is because the future earnings are going to be down because now we're in a recession. And now, well, we've been in a recession, but nobody wanted to say it because of the election. Because look how good Biden's doing. Yeah, you got us in a freaking depression with massive inflation. Yeah, this is how good he's doing. So China's collapsing. I got more on that. The answer to the question is the yen carry trade. Say the yen has nothing to do with it. What are these guys? I mean, this is the problem. All right. So I got stock market. Dow plummets 900 points. NASDAQ. So let's look at this one. Yahoo Finance. Dow plummets over 1,000. NASDAQ and S&P 500 sink as global sell-off intensifies. I guess they lost 800 or 900 on Friday. Wall Street stock sell-off intensifies in a major way Monday as concerns mounting over the health of the U.S. economy. The U.S. economy has been in a recession for 2 years now. What the fuck are they talking about? The Dow Jones fell over 1,000 points. A lot of it is that Warren Buffett is selling, 1 billion shares here and 1 billion shares there. I love that our Amazon friend lost like 20%. He lost like $10 billion today. See, those guys really aren't rich. They're rich in stock, but not in dollars. So they don't have the money, but they're rich is because their stock price is so high and they have so many shares that it's 10 billion dollars. Wall Street's fair gauge, the CBOE volatile index soared, reaching its highest level since panic. Treasury yields plummeted with the 10-year. The global stock market is in the midst of a rapidly intensifying sell-off after Friday's lackluster. On whether the Federal Reserve had waited too long before the Federal Reserve cannot cut rates. Sorry, they have to go up, but they won't. But they'll cut them, and the gold will really shoot up when that happens, because that's more inflation. Plus all the dollars coming back from BRICS, from China and Japan selling their T-bills. Here's why gold's down a little today. So let's go the whole circle. China's got $6 trillion in T-bills, which they don't want because they know they're worthless. So they're trying to sell them. Well, what do they want to do? They want to buy gold with them. That's what they've been doing, selling the treasuries to buy gold. Now, well, why buy gold at $24.50 when I can buy gold at $23.75? So they put in the big derivative at 4 a.m. And then what do? They buy the gold at $24.75 instead of at $23.75 instead of $24.75. So that's what's happening. If I wanted to buy a Mickey Mantle card, I'd want it to be lower because I want to buy it. So that's what's happening. So keep that in mind. That's what they're trying to do. So it makes sense, but they got to dump all those treasuries, and but China's having a real tough time. A lot of problems over in China. However, they have the gold to back it up. So look for that to be the savior of Rome. Some of the biggest companies in the stock market saw their values plummeted at the open. Apple down 4% amid sell-off and news that Berkshire cut its stake in the company in half. See, you think it's Warren Buffett selling. It's not him. It's Berkshire Hathaway. Nvidia pullback continued as it dropped 13%. Tesla fell 3%. Why anybody's in Tesla, I don't know. Crypto also took a beating with Bitcoin sinking more than 8% to creep towards the 54,000. They were this in the 60s. They're at 54,000. Why are they being affected by this? Because people need money, but you don't sell your gold. And now here comes the avalanche into gold. What do you do? Okay, I'm in the stock market, not in gold. Like the guy at the gym, right? I've got my S&P. I got my pension in the stock market. And I wished him luck. I says, well, that's a shame. You're going to lose all your money. Because not only is the stock market going to crash, but the dollar's worthless. So you're getting a double hit. But what doesn't get hit? Gold. Because you buy gold now. You don't sell it. You buy it. And that's the key. So crypto gets hit because it's not real. The concerns have spread throughout the world as well. Traders in Asia greeted the week with a similar sell-off. At Japan's Nikkei was routed by more than 12%. Its biggest ever daily loss after a surprise interest rate hike by the Bank of Japan. The sharp rise in the yen against the U.S. dollar spurred heavy selling at speculators who had borrowed money at Japan's near 0% interest rates to buy U.S. risky assets have been liquidated. So everybody's getting fucked who aren't into gold. The U.S. market is headed into a quieter week of dating and earnings, with the jobs market still in focus. Weekly unemployment claims due Thursday, and the unemployment was down or there was more unemployment and less jobs. That's why I'm really happy is I'm getting this job at the perfect time. Because even in a recession, I'm at a fucking utility. It doesn't matter. They always need gas and electric, and they're not going anywhere. I mean, if they go out, you can't do anything. So it's a perfect company to work at, getting away from getting away from um, the autos, which are headed for disaster. Markets are rapidly pricing in more interest rate cuts. Well, that ain't going to happen. A slew of weaker than expected economic data included a surprise uptick in the unemployment rate. Why is it a surprise? Triggering a closely watched recession indicator has sent markets into a tailspin. So people are just now understanding we're in a recession. I know one of you guys asked me, when are we in a recession? I says, we're already in it. This was 2 years ago. A recession means you slow down the economy. When you raise interest rates and you have inflation and prices go up, you devalue the dollar, you're in a recession then. Again, this is like, well, yeah, I know we're on the Titanic and I know we hit the iceberg and I know we're sinking, but until I see the boat in the water and the water going, and the boat going down and down, I don't believe it. Well, the water is coming in. You've hit the iceberg. The water is coming in. It's sinking. Well, I don't believe it. I mean, that's basically what you're saying here. Um, So they're just starting to realize that you're in a recession, which was 2 years ago. A slew of weaker than expected. I think it jumped on me. But there isn't consensus on how quickly and swiftly the Fed needs to adjust its policy to just address the risk. As of Monday afternoon, markets are pricing in more than 5 interest rate cuts by the end of the Fed's January 20. That'll never happen. That's impossible. So if you're counting on that, that's like saying Carolina is going to win the Super Bowl. It ain't never going to happen. As of Monday afternoon, markets are pricing in more than 5, roughly 2 more cuts than the market had priced less than a week ago on July 31st. The pricing aligns with economists who believe the Fed is offside and that a policy shift is needed as inflation falls. How can inflation falls? If you're printing the money and you printed 21 trillion and you're off the petrodollar and it's all starting to come back, how can inflation go down? What a bunch of morons. See, if you if you read this, you've got to be smart enough to realize it's bullshit. The Fed is offsides. The stance of monetary policy is quite restrictive at present. Wells Fargo chief economist, whoever, wrote in a research note on Monday calling for 100 basis points of cuts across the Fed's next 2 meetings. Well, that'll never happen. In our view, the FOMC needs to get back to a neutral stance of policy quickly, or else it's a vicious circle of labor marketing weakness leading to sluggish spending. Well, that's what we have. They raised rates way too much at 3/4, 0.75 for 5 or 6 times in a row. And now they're sitting at zero too long. So they don't know what they're doing. But cutting rates is impossible because of the massive inflation we have, not 2%, maybe 22%, but you can't measure inflation in percentage. It's all dollars. Deutsche Bank's economics team, which is standing by its call for 3 interest rate cuts this year, sees it differently. Senior U.S. economist Brett Ryan told Yahoo the recent market action feels like a scramble among market participants that might have been too optimistic rather than an accurate recalibration. Ryan added the key remains seeing further data to explain whether the weakness in the July jobs report was an aberration due to one-time issues like Hurricane Beryl or a confirmation that a trend is starting. You don't want to overreact to one data point. Well, we're not. We're reacting to you've printed $21 trillion. You have a $36 trillion debt that you can't pay back. So without question, the risks have risen, leaning toward the Fed starting off the more aggressive pace of rate cuts, but we're not there yet. They can't do it. It'll never happen. All of the S&P 500 sectors were in red territory on Monday, with techs leading the downside. And the Dow Jones average fell more than 900, well, it's 1,000 as we see. Major averages extending their sell-off from Friday, while other assets like oil, gold you can't include, Bitcoin tanked roughly 8%. Bitcoin is still a speculative asset, former Bridgewater Associates CIO. Well, the professor thinks it's not even an asset, so it's a, what do you call it? It's a collectible. We don't know what Bitcoin is. It is certainly not money. I'd rather a Mickey Mantle card that I can hold or my Mahomes card. So I'd rather have this. At least I got the fucking card, and I know there's only 50 of them. See, I love that. How is 21 million Bitcoin limited when I got a Mahomes 50 count? That's limited. How do you compare the two? Or a Rolex that probably is not a lot. I think I'll go into the jewelry store and try to get quantities, and they're probably like 10 of these and 20 of those, which causes high prices because there's high demand. So they keep the supply low on purpose, just like gold, not kept on purpose, but gold's gold. There's no, you can't print it or copy it. You dig it out of the ground. Bitcoin is speculative at best. So the Dow's down 1,000 points. Stock market today drops. Dow drops over 900 points. Okay, so we got the gist of it. Dow drops 860 points, and Japanese stocks suffer worst crash since 1987. So either you pay attention to what's going on or you ignore it. I show you China, Japan, Canada, England all going broke. Well, you can either pay attention to it and go, guess what's coming here? Because that's people that can't afford your goods and services. They don't have money to buy, and they desperately need it. So what do? They print their own money, which is massive inflation. Printing money is the inflation. That's the key to my class here. Understanding inflation is printing the money, devaluing the money. The more you print, the less it's worth. It's worthless. And as I showed you, Egon said 98% are gone. 98% of the dollar, 98 and a half. So there's 1.5%, which I think is zero. I don't think it has any value. Actually, I'll have to figure out what I do with this job. Well, I guess I pay my rent with it, and then everything else goes and I buy gold with it. So anything I have left goes into gold. That's what I got to do. And interesting. So that's your market today. Why? Because of inflation. Why? Because the government prints like a bunch of idiots, because they're all MMT Keynesians. MMT's Keynesians. We can print and there's no problem. And as we can see, you can't print. You can't just keep printing like eating cake. You can't eat a cake a day and not gain weight and get sick. You cannot print money as much as they print. I mean, the interest on the debt of 36 trillion is 1.7 a quarter every 100 days or something, every 3 months. So that's 4 trillion, more than $5 trillion. That, how do you pay it? You print it. So that's another 5 trillion you're printing. That makes the dollar worthless. See, and people can't, they just assume, well, the debt will be 50 trillion in 10 years. No, the debt will be zero in 10 years because the dollar will go out. So you won't have a debt. $36 trillion goes to zero if the dollar is a monopoly piece. And then all your assets go to zero, and all the people you owe, I don't owe it anymore. So that's really what happens. That's the point. So you've got to understand that. And it's real simple. If you understand inflation, It's like the housing crisis happened because they gave loans to people that couldn't afford it, basically, right? They didn't even have a credit score. They weren't even working. Oh, we'll give them a $200,000 loan to buy the house. What are you doing? And that was all Clinton's fault, right? So here, people want to ignore what inflation is printing the dollar to death. They want to ignore that. No, it's prices. And look, the prices are 2%. So we can lower rates. We did it. We got inflation down. So because Coke went from $1.50 to 2.95 and then stayed there, inflation's down? No. Why is Coke a dollar? Why was Coke $1.59 in the first place? Inflation. You printed the dollar because we know Coke was 10 cents a bottle in 1971. We know a car was 4,000 in 1971. Now it takes more dollars to buy the same car virtually. And now it's 30,000 for a car that was 4,000. And that's the point. The value of the dollar is dropping. Prices aren't going up. Therefore, how the fuck do you measure inflation in prices? What are you kidding me? Hey, Luke, what the fuck happened in the Well, basically, they realize there's a recession, which I've told everybody 2 years ago, and the inflation isn't going away. And Warren Buffett and his team sold Apple like $2 billion worth, and they sold uh, Amazon. Poor Bezos lost like $10 billion today. Uh, Tesla lost. They all lost a lot. It's all because they realized there's a recession and all the future earnings. So there was, what was it? One company, it's on a video I got. One company, they beat earnings. I don't know if it was Microsoft or Amazon, but the future outlook is bad because they're figuring out the recession. So we've known this for 2 years, and I've warned you to get out of the stock market. As I warn you again, this is why you get out of gold and silver. Did your gold and silver get hurt? Probably, because they dump everything. They're not, oh, let's go into gold and silver. They're dumping their stocks because they're scared. This is the moment on the Titanic when people realize the boat's sinking. You get out of the fucking market. That's what I've been trying to tell you, to get out of gold and silver. And that's the point. You're worried about mortgaging a house. You ain't going to have anything to mortgage. So just get out, buy your gold, and then if you need to, put some gold back into the bank. I'm telling you, you're going to buy the house with the gold. You don't need a mortgage. You're not thinking fifth dimensionally. The prices didn't change on SD bullion, still 25.20 an ounce. What are you talking about? Gold is 24. Gold took a nasty 8 o'clock. Gold's 24.08. It got crushed at 4 in the morning by the Chinese, down to 8 o'clock. It went down, what, $80, but at least it got back over 24. And that's simply because China and silver is getting crushed for no reason. China has $6 trillion in T-bills. Okay. So because China has all these T-bills, they want gold price down because they're going to sell the T-bills, because you see, I show you what's going on with their country. They need money. They need gold. So they're selling the T-bills soon, if they haven't already, which they probably have, and they're going to buy gold. And this way they can buy gold at 23. So basically, instead of buying gold at 24.41, they can buy it at 23.68. That's what's happening. They can buy it cheaper, so they let it go. And then at 23.68, they start buying it back at 24.07. Welcome to the non-free market there. So the prices didn't change on SD bullion. Still 20. Yeah, it's 2408. They crushed the paper price of gold and silver, but it didn't affect the physical price of premium. Oh, so what you're saying to buy an ounce is 25.20. I see. Yeah, they're not going to change it. Well, let's see. Let's go to eBay, where kids are king. Oh, and by the way, Luke, I did get the job. Very excited. I have an interview tomorrow where I meet the team just to make sure I'm not like some crazy guy. And then I have it, and we're just working out the price. So, yeah, Cougaran 2503. That's not a real good quarter ounce. Quarter ounce 667. 1327, a half ounce, six. See, but they're not going to really adjust these auctions much. Where are my ounces? See, notice how the Mantle card didn't change. He's still 72,000. And notice how the Rolex is still 820,000. That cost didn't change. And this Rolex is still 527. Funny how things like that don't get affected. 2507 Maple Leaf, 2537 Eagle, 269 for the 1/10. But yeah, so they're over 25. They're not going anywhere. Only the idiot on Yankee Doodle Dandy is thinking. Half ounces, quarter ounce, 678. That's pretty much similar. I don't understand why silver's getting it. How much lower can it get? 25.21 for gold. Well, thank you, Luke. So I'm hoping to meet Jenna. Daria, I don't know. Daria's like, I'll think of when we can meet. And I'm like, okay, Daria, look, if you wanted to meet me, I'll fly to Russia to meet you. But she wants to go on a vacation with me. And I'm like, okay, when you're ready, you give me a call. We'll go on vacation. In the meantime, I'm going to go with Jenna somewhere. I don't start for at least 2 weeks. So I need to get the blood test and the background check. So I hope to meet Jenna. If she can stay in Berlin, either meet her in Berlin, which I really don't like to do, and I keep waiting for the guys to goose step around the city, or we can go to, somewhere around there. I don't know what's there, Austria, Switzerland. I don't know if Switzerland's a good place, but Austria or Spain. Maybe we'll go to Spain again. Not Barcelona, but there's some other nice places. So maybe we'll do that. I can do it. Now that I got the job, I can go this weekend or, next Monday or Tuesday and go for the week and start 2 weeks from today, roughly, the 19th. So, yeah, I knew it, though. I just felt it. And now it's just this one interview tomorrow, meeting the staff, which, I'll be the professor, but I won't talk gold because they might not like me. So I want to show you Egon's thing. You'll like this. All right. So I was on Twitter yesterday, and here's Egon. I'm going to read this to you. Silver moving fast to 50. Silver is now starting the acceleration phase. $50 should not take long to reach, but the pause there will be temporary. Gold should reach around 3,400 in this move on the way to much higher levels. So there you go. This is from our boy Egon. 3,400. Biggest wealth transfer in history. Gold and silver now starting an acceleration phase up as stocks move into a secular downtrend. We won't see a 2008 gold correction. Instead, tech stocks will lose 90% versus gold. So you want to be in stocks or gold? And they're going to lose almost 100% to gold. With trillions in U.S. Treasuries repricing in 2024 and over $700 billion in zombie bonds, from S&P issuers doing the same. If Powell doesn't cut rates, the sovereign and corporate bond markets are staring down a loaded barrel. Central bankers continue to steadily devalue the currencies they're devaluing, they're inflating it, they're printing it, inevitably raising the levels of mouse click fiat money, the ultimate but largely invisible insult to our children and grandchildren when the vicious circle ends. Global debt has already tripled this century, with the dollar and most of its currencies having lost 98.5% of the purchasing power, which is what we're saying. So this is when I say the dollar zero, it's lost 98 points. So $100 has lost 98 and a half of its $100. It's worth $1. It's worth $1.50. The $100 you got in 1971 is worth $1.50 now. So you could buy $1.50 of what you could have bought for $100 in 1970. That's my point. Of the value of the dollar is gone. With global debt at around 350 trillion and global GDP 100 trillion, the global debt to GDP is 350%. Over 100% debt to GDP is unsustainable and cannot be financed. 350% debt to GDP is bankruptcy. We are fucking bankrupt, as is China, Japan, and India, and everybody else. All the euro is bankrupt. Britain, Switzerland. Both central banks and funds and investors will turn to gold as the most stable part of a crumbling system. This will lead to a fundamental revaluation of gold, as more gold cannot be produced. Higher prices can only satisfy increased demand. And I used your brother as the example. You can't print any more tickets to the Ohio State-Oregon game. So if the demand's there, then the price goes up. Oh, I bought it for $200 the ticket. You're going to give me $2,000? Here you go. So as the price goes up, that's how the tickets become available. But they're all gone, so that's why prices go up. So that's what he's saying. The demand for gold will force the price up, not the stupid COMEX. That'll be gone for gold very, very soon. So that's what I got from Egon. So everything's here, 25, 21, gold. I mean, let's go to here. So this will be even fresher. Yeah, so here you go. This is right now, 25.41, 25.05 for the Maple Leaf, 25.35. So yeah, the prices aren't going anywhere. 25.76. Yeah, these don't move much. 25.48, 25.11 for the Maple Leaf, 282 for the 10th of an ounce. This is what I'm saying. You're going to buy fractionals. You buy the 10th of an ounce. You buy the quarter ounce. The quarter ounce is 700. Where's that? Let's see. So here's your quarter ounce, 675. So what I'm saying is buy some of those and mix it up. Because you're not always going to want to sell an ounce, but you might, I need $700. I can sell a quarter ounce. What are you going to do selling an ounce? Then what are you going to do with the money? So let's say you get 25.50, or pretty soon you're going to get 35.50. What are you going to do with but I only need $1,000. right? So let's say you need 1,000, you got to pay a credit card or a medical bill or something pops, a trip to, the U.S. Open or something. Well, you don't need to sell, especially when gold hits 3,000. You don't want to sell an ounce because it's going much higher. So you can sell a quarter ounce and get $750, $800 for it. Perfect. No tax. You get the money. It's all you need. You need 500, 600. Boom. Why sell an ounce for it? And believe me, it's going to be hard to get the ounce back. If you don't buy now and it goes to 3,400, we got bricks coming in October, and now everything's collapsing now. And they're basing it on, well, the Fed will lower rates. The Fed can't lower rates. It is not possible for the Fed to lower rates. Yeah, I mean, normally, like my guy, I'm sorry, the paper and the gold price. The paper price, my guy has like it's spot plus 100. So if you came in at 10 o'clock at 23.78, you could have got it for 24.78. But once it goes back to 24.09, they're not going to change the premiums too often. Maybe at the store, they're more looking and getting the exact price, and then they have all these figures. But that's okay. So anyway, so that's they cannot lower interest rates. They should be higher, but they can't lower them. And I think what they're saying is they'll lower them in November for the election. I don't know why. It's going to crash the economy, but what the hell? And then I believe gold goes, and I think gold goes up in October, September, October with bricks. Might take a dip after the election, and then Katie bar the door, January, February, March. Look out. So you have to think to yourself, can I buy, I can go buy gold at 2,500. Can I buy it at 3,500? Yeah, I can, but I get a lot more bang for my buck now. I mean, now I can go, I get the job once it's inked and I got the contract, and I don't take drugs. So I'm not worried about the drug test or the background check. So once all that's clean, then, I can still buy it at 2,500. So for $5,000, I can buy 2 ounces. Soon it's going to cost me $7,000 for 2 ounces. So there's a lot more meat to cover. And I know it's going up to 3,500. That's the point. I don't have a fear that it's dropping back to 2,000. It's never going to happen. You'll never see it at $2,000 again. They're trying to push it down. They tried to get it to 2,300, 2,373, back to 2,408. That's that rinse and wash cycle that nobody understands that Mark McGuire says. So basically, they had to play their gold to get the thing down so China could buy more gold. Basically, that's what it is. China getting a cheaper price. But now, how much gold does the U.S. have left to keep doing these derivatives? And at what point are we going to even listen to COMEX? Get it the fuck out. And then we'll just, I don't know if it's Shanghai or somebody will have a physical price, which is what we're waiting for. And we see another zero after the 2000. So you think all stocks are going to get pummeled? Well, is any stock up today? You tell me. Even the gold mining stocks, if the gold price goes up, I can't see that. I can see them bashing the paper gold, silver price as the stock market collapses, but the physical price won't change. Well, okay, so we're talking 2 different things. The stocks will get hammered because they're getting out. It's a panic. I got to get out of the market. I remember 1929. That's why the gold stocks, not for a good reason, but they don't know gold's going to the moon. So therefore, they're not understanding to hold the gold and silver. Me and you understand it, but we're in a very limited population of people that understand that. So while we know it's going to happen, we also know that the panic selling, because then you're going to encourage China and Japan and Germany to sell the stocks too, because a lot of their money is in our stocks because the U.S. is the reserve currency. And as they start, they're going to start dumping to get into gold. So the gold goes through the roof. Now, the stocks, unfortunately, are all lumped. Get out of the market, get out of the market. They're panicking. They realize the boat's sinking. Finally, we know that for 2 years. They're just realizing it. So you think all stocks are going to get pummeled? Yes. Even the gold mining stocks, if the gold price goes up, yes, because they're not thinking logically. This is a panic. This is hyperinflation in the stock market. You just dump your portfolio. People own portfolios. They're just mutual funds. They're just dumping. Um, just wait, let it collapse, and then buy your gold stocks. But you don't want to be in stocks right now. I can see them bashing the paper, gold, silver price as the stock market collapse. No, they won't do that either. But the physical price won't change or go even higher. Well, no, you got to understand the physical price is a conduit of the paper price. It's paper plus 100 or whatever. But why would the paper price of gold go down? No, to go up because more people will be buying gold for safety. Gold is the antithesis of the dollar. So as the stock market, as you're in a recession, depression, and the stock market's going down because future earnings are going down. So, oh, wait, Amazon's not going to make as much money in the third quarter. I'm selling. And it's all big mutual funds. And Warren Buffett sells, the $20 billion worth. That's why it goes down. But he sells, is he just selling Amazon and Apple? That's what he sold today, Amazon and Apple, a ton of it. Oh, of course, that's going to make it go down. But how many people watch him going, oh, if Warren Buffett did it, I'm going to do it. Now, logically, you're right. Why would they go down? Actually, why would Coke and Pepsi go down? They shouldn't. They're not controlled by the inflation isn't really hurting them. You still want a Coke and a Pepsi. It's still cheap. You're still going to buy it. You're not going to buy cars. I would, if you have Ford, GM, any car company, Toyota, get the fuck out of those because nobody's going to be buying cars. The interest rate and the inflation, it'll be $40,000 to buy a Camry, and you're not going to sell it. So that's what I'm saying. I don't see the derivative price on gold going down. There is no reason for it to go down. So that's what's happening. Well, Jenna's excited. She finally read the message. I said, I got the job. So with that said, I don't see why would the gold go down? Why would COMEX go down? They're trying to knock it down now, but there's going to be more buying of gold, not less, because it's the safe haven. We're having a recession. I'm going to buy gold. Oh, because not too many people understand inflation's killing the value of the dollar, except for Egon, I just showed you. So with Egon, people buying gold forces COMEX up. So gold and the stock market are antithesis. As the stock market crumbles, people are selling to get out. Nobody's buying. By the way, they're buying the gold. So that's why we're seeing a $3,000 gold price. Gold is the only place that's safe haven. We understand that. You certainly don't want to be in dollars. You can't be in stocks. You can't be in bonds. And why the hell do you want money in the bank where it's worthless? So understand that you can't be in stocks. I know your thought, and I agree with your thought, except people aren't rational now. They're going to dump everything, right? Because they're in a portfolio. They call their broker from Germany, sell my stocks. Well, he's selling it. It's not like, well, sell all my stocks, but the gold and silver one. And again, as gold and silver goes up, I agree, the miners should go up, but it causes people to buy them. Stocks are an auction like the Mantle card on eBay. The only way the stock goes up, somebody buys it. Are you buying gold coin or are you buying the gold stock is the point. And I don't know anybody who's going to be buying stocks. They're it's like get off the boat, get off the Titanic, get out of the lifeboat. I don't know anybody who's going to be doing that. So that's my point. All right. You can see them bashing paper. No, that won't happen. Stock market will collapse. That's what's happening, and you get the fuck out of stocks. The physical price changes with the spot. Yes, that's how they market. My guy, it's $100 over spot. So as spot goes up or down, that's why it's 2,500 for the ounce. It was 2,400 when gold was 2,300. It was 2,400. Gold is up to 24. Now it's 2,500. Absolutely, it goes with spot, but spot's going up, not down. And then what happens to cash? Well, we say bye-bye to cash. That's why we need a gold-backed currency. It won't happen yet, but the stock market's collapsing, but the value of the dollar is at 98.5, right? It's going to be 99.5. I think it's 100, but again, I can see things most people can't. But that's what'll happen. This gold this gold, the dollar's worthless. So I think what happens is as BRICS rolls out their gold-backed currency, now they have an excuse to roll it out. Look at China, they're in big trouble. Everybody's leaving. Everybody's unemployed there. The banks are going out. The housing market's going out. Oh my God, we need gold to save the day. And we know they got 60,000 tons of it. They're not too worried. Even though the public's a little worried, they got the ace in the hole, the gold. So the dollar will get crushed once BRICS says, hey, we're going to a gold-backed currency. And I was reading where Texas wants to join BRICS because they want the gold-backed currency. And they know, if you have Austrian economists in your group, they know that the dollars can't stay. It's going to go to zero. And the only answer is gold. And so they're trying to join BRICS because it's the only way. So how does the dollar end? How did the Roman Empire die? I mean, it took a while for it to die. But it dies. Mostly when it's at the point when nobody wants the currency. And that's coming. Just gets hyperinflated away. There's no demand for it. It loses demand. Nobody wants it, right? As soon as nobody wants it, it's not really the hyperinflation that does it. It's okay, I got this Canadian club and I go to sell it. Nobody makes me an offer. Nobody wants it. Then it's over. Right now I get $100. People want it. So with this, people still want it. They still use it. But as it becomes clear that it's printed to death, I don't want the dollar. I want the gold-backed BRICS currency is what I want, or the Zimbabwe gold-backed currency, because I know gold can't go anywhere because you can't fucking print it. That's the key to it. They'll choose gold over the dollar. There'll be no more demand for the dollar. It's all over. I mean, like Venezuela's 65,000% inflation. If you use the Venezuela dollar, probably don't want to use that one. So it's when there's no demand for it, it goes away. And they'll replace it. Warren Buffett is stockpiling cash. Is he wrong? Yeah, he's wrong because the cash turns into monopoly money. He should be stockpiling gold and silver but he's not that smart. What good is cash going to do when it's worthless? It's all monopoly money now. It's lost 98.5% of its value. Why the fuck would you want cash? Oh, he's going to buy things. Well, I tell you what, if you have gold, you're going to buy a lot more things with the gold than you're going to buy with cash, because the gold's going up in value and the cash is going down. So he's an idiot for buying cash. What you going to buy? Houses or stuff? Not with cash. Nobody's going to want it. There's no demand. That's what happens to the dollar. It goes out. Look at Germany, right? So they hyperinflated 1923. And they were wallpapering with the cash. So here's Warren Buffett with all this cash on his wall because he's wallpapering it. That's not good. That's my point. But if you had gold, they're buying houses for $100 with gold. Gold will buy you houses. So I keep telling you, gold will buy you houses, Mercedes, Ferraris, everything with gold. Right? That's it, because that'll be the money and everybody will be so happy to get gold. I'm telling you, you will not need another mortgage day in your life or your kids, as I told you. I don't know how many people will be buying expensive football and concert tickets. Exactly. Your brother needs to cash out soon. Wait till the Ohio State-Oregon game and the Michigan-Ohio State game. Cash out and just put it into gold. I went to the barbecue place Saturday, and I told them, I says, you should be putting all your dollars into gold. And then if you need money for expense, then trade it. Get the dollars back. But to hold your money in dollars, you're out of your mind. And when I went to Toyota, the guy told me his friend who runs a part shop would go every night with his profit and go buy gold with it. That's the only thing you can do at this new job. I don't know what my salary is yet. I'm hoping for 55 an hour. And the point is that, okay, I'm going to get paid in dollars, which I don't want, but okay. So I'm going to pay off my rent, my utilities, and my credit cards and stuff. And the rest goes into gold, because I do not want Yes, do I want a 401k? Absolutely not. I'm off to the gold store. And in fact, now I can take money in my safe. Once everything's signed, I can take the money in my safe and run and buy gold, and then just replenish it with my paychecks. That's the idea. And then Social Security, they fuck you. So you can only make so much money. And I got to calculate how much money I'll make the rest of the year. And I'll probably owe another $5,000 to Social Security. So I got to cut it off before I owe another $10,000 to it next year. So be careful with Social Security. Take it as soon as you can, but they keep changing it. I was supposed to be 66 and it would be unlimited. Now it's 67 and it's unlimited. And by the time I hit 67, it'll be 70, because they don't have it. So they're basically, that's why I'm so happy with the job, and it's a utility. So I don't have to worry about, anything, right? If I was at GM or Ford, I'd be fucked, because nobody's buying a car. They'll be laying off, but not at a utility. You always need electricity and power. So that's the beauty. It's a perfect job. It's a perfect place. And I got to learn SQL, which I kind of understand, and then it's I was watching a YouTube tutorial, so I'll go back to that now. Well, that's what happens, Luke. Even in your business, are you going to run and buy a tennis racket, or are you going to buy? It's there, and then you got to eat, and see, the dollar keeps losing value. So you got to buy food. See, do I buy food and pay my rent, or buy a tennis racket? So you got to be a little careful with your tennis stuff. And that's why it's buy as much gold and silver as you can. The dollar's going out, gold and silver are going to the moon. Yes, they're being held back by derivative, but it's a brilliant. I mean, I should go out and buy 1,000 ounces of silver today. It's $27. I know it's going to 1,000, so how can I lose? How can it go down? It's only held down because of these solar panel guys want to buy it, right? Or China's holding it down, but we all know it's about to go. It's going to explode, but we understand that. We know that's not the real price. What the fuck would silver go down? So it'll be back to 30, but as Egon said, it'll hit 50 and then it's 100 and then and my point is it's going to be 10%. So when gold hits 20,000, it'll be 2,000. And Yankee Doodle Dandy doesn't get it because he doesn't understand inflation or Austrian economics. Otherwise, he'd get it. Oh, it won't hit 100 in my lifetime. Yeah, well, your lifetime, when's it end? What, in 2 weeks? In a month? The guy's ridiculous. Anyway, let's go to some videos. So Jenna's all excited for me. Dario will see. I'm getting a little pissed at Dario because think about it. When you get a text in and you don't want to respond to it, you don't. But if it's somebody you like, you respond to it. And so I text her and like she's not responding to some or every few days. And I'm like, well, why aren't you responding? Here, Jenna responds. I got the job. She responded right away. What the hell is going on with Daria? Well, if you're not interested, fine. Then that's why you have two girlfriends. So I really don't understand her, but okay. Let's see. See here they're saying stocks tumble as recession fears spark. Well, it's already been recession. This one, I was ex-Soros money manager. I want to kill this guy. Ex-Soros money. You work for Soros? Fucking idiot. Then they get some really strange ones. The hidden meaning behind the satanic start at the Olympics. I'm not going there. Dr. Phil thinks China's got a secret plan. I'm not going there. So this is my SQL class that I will watch. Tariff war, Indonesia, China. So Indonesia wants to raise tariffs on China. What do we say? No. That's bad. Tariffs make things more expensive. You end up selling less. It causes a big recession, as 1929 showed us when we did the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act. You're trying to protect your goods, but it doesn't work that way. You want the competition to lower prices. When you take the competition away and says, we're going to give you a 200% tariff, China. Well, wait, if the China goods are cheaper, that's what you want. Now you push China's prices up, which means your prices go up. Because I got to compete with China. So if steel is $1 from China and mine I'm selling at $3, whatever it is, however you sell it, now you force China's price to $5. Well, what happens to your $3 price? It goes up to $5 because now you don't have to compete with them. So who gets hurt? The consumer. Anybody using steel or wood or coffee or anything. Anybody, they raise their prices because they don't have to compete, or the competition price went up, from $1 to $5. So I can raise my $3 to $5 and go from there. And this is what's fucked up. So you do not want tariffs, tariff increases. That's not good. Let's see. I like this.
Instead, gold rose to $24.50 per troy ounce before taking a modest pullback of about 4%. So what is going?
This is on
Don't
gold.
fight the Fed. It's a mantra investors know all too well, but an exception has emerged. Gold investors are fighting the Fed and winning. The reason why tells us what could happen when interest rates finally fall.
They won't fall.
Don't fight the Fed is a saying that means exactly what it sounds like. If the Federal Reserve is in a tightening cycle and created restrictive monetary policy, it should depress derivative investments like stocks and bonds. Stocks because expensive debt is bad for business, bonds because as rates go up, the value of bonds declines, and it can affect other assets too. Some parts of the country are in the beginning of housing market corrections as higher rates create unaffordable conditions for many. If you look at the S&P 500, you'll see investors largely got the memo. The Federal Reserve began raising rates in March 2022, and the S&P 500 declined for several months. It did not recover to its previous all-time high set in 2021 until January of 2024, after Fed board member Christopher Waller made comments hinting at future rate cuts. Gold has not reciprocated the action of other markets or paid even a token acknowledgement of its own past behavior. It has, without apology, continued to rise amidst high interest rates, breaking records repeatedly. This is unusual for a few reasons. Normally, gold is thought of as a safe haven asset. Investors will flock to gold when they believe other assets will not perform and they need a safety net to store their wealth. Treasuries are often favored as an alternative to gold when rates are high, and treasuries have been very high compared to their historical performance in recent years. The yield on the one-year treasury has been over 5% for most of the last year, and many new notes were issued after the budget was approved and the treasury coffers need to be refilled. In this environment, spot gold prices should be taking an ugly beating. Instead, gold rose to $24.50 per troy ounce before taking a modest pullback of about 4%. So what is going on? Well, gold rose to $2,450 due to a confluence of events, but it cannot be denied that expected rate cuts were an initial catalyst for a forward-looking market. However, if that were the only variable, then gold should have plunged on news from the Fed in June when they officially dashed investor hopes for substantial rate cuts this year. Remember, we went from pundits confidently telling their viewers that 6 rate cuts were in the cards for 2024, and now we are looking at most likely 1. In a rational market, if that were the only variable, gold prices should have plummeted.
So we're going to see if this guy understands gold. Gold goes up because the dollar's going out. Let's see if he talks about that. That is the only reason everybody is selling their dollars to get into gold. All the central banks are selling their interest rates have nothing to do with it. It's all the inflation of the dollar. That's why you can't lower inflation interest rates. You have to keep the rates where they are or higher. But when you keep them high, you cause a recession because costs get higher. Because everybody depends on interest rates to do their purchasing, right? If interest rates go up, my things cost more. Okay, so I sell less because if things are more expensive, I can't sell as much. So that's what's happening to your interest rates, and they won't come down because of the inflation. So it's all because of the inflation.
So we can look to a few other factors driving gold prices. And there are the usual suspects, of course: war, politics, and inflation, to name a few. But this story isn't complete without China. The PBOC, or People's Bank of China, is the central bank responsible for monetary policy in China. While they recently paused their gold buying spree in both May and June, China did buy massive amounts of gold for 18 months straight. This protracted surge of gold buying has helped buoy the price of gold. Political analysts believe that China's gold buying spree began in earnest after the U.S. froze Russian assets with sanctions in response to the Ukrainian invasion. China has been pushing for de-dollarization ever since, and they are leading by example. As China has divested itself of U.S. treasuries, they have instead bought gold, which may reduce their interest income but ultimately provides resilience and security against potential sanctions. Analysts have suggested that China's record gold buying is one of the main reasons for gold's detachment from other long-standing economic factors. Well-known publications like Bloomberg, Business Insider, the New York Times, and more have reported on the phenomenon. With some saying the West has lost control and China is the main determiner of gold prices now. While China did pause its gold buying, we have yet to see any evidence that China is done amassing gold as part of its long-term strategy. In 2023 alone, the PBOC bought 735 tons of gold, and the private sector imported over 1,400 tons of gold. The United States still holds the most gold in the world at 8,133 metric tons.
I don't think so.
Valued at over $560 billion by today's.
See, now you lose me when you start saying stuff like that. You're telling me you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. All right, so we got to end this one. Let's see, the real reason why stocks are crashing.
For that. Overall, job growth. Stock market has officially flipped.
Is America heading towards a recession?
I mean, if you looked up disaster in the dictionary, you'd see Intel's ticker.
The unemployment rate jumping to 4.3% is the highest level in nearly 3 years. The central bank holding interest rates steady yesterday for the 8th straight meeting, opening the door to a September rate cut right before the presidential election.
Major investors are dumping stocks as the NASDAQ officially entered correction territory on Friday. Warren Buffett, for example, just sold roughly half of his entire position in Apple, even after they reported a record quarterly operating profit. We're going to dive into what's causing this major market sell-off, but first, let's take a look at some individual stocks that have been hit the hardest. First off, we have Intel. This stock had its worst trading day since 1974, with the stock selling off over 26% after reporting earnings. This alone evaporated about $30 billion of value for the tech giant. The first reason behind the sell-off here is layoffs. Intel announced that they would be cutting about 15% of their workforce as part of a $10 billion cost-cutting plan. In addition, Intel admitted that they've been unable to keep up with important trends like artificial intelligence. In the second quarter of 2024, Intel reported a massive $1.6 billion net loss, and that compares to net income of $1.5 billion in the same quarter of last year. Intel stock has been on a nosedive since the end of 2023, and the total loss for the stock from all-time highs now stands at just shy of 58%. And keep in mind, this isn't just some random tech growth stock. Intel is part of the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which are 30 prominent U.S. blue chip stocks that are viewed as industry leaders. If this trend continues, this could potentially jeopardize their position in this prestigious index. Next up, we have Amazon. Amazon stock dumped just shy of 9% on Friday after reporting earnings. This was the biggest single-day drop for Amazon in years, erasing $134 billion in total market value for the e-commerce giant. While there are broader catalysts for this big tech sell-off that we will be covering shortly, Amazon missed revenue estimates for quarter 2 of 2024. Revenue was expected to come in at $148.5 billion, but Amazon ended up reporting revenue of $147.9 billion. But this $600 million revenue shortfall is not what caused this massive sell-off alone, because keep in mind the stock market is forward-looking. Instead, it was large.
So when you buy stocks, you don't look at the results today. You look at what they say going forward. So if Coke says, "Oh, we're coming out with a new product, and it's new water, and we're gonna make $1 billion on it," people jump into the stock because it's going to go up. But just because you beat earnings, if your future earnings go down or sales go down, then you're out of it. You don't have a chance. Your stock will get hammered because, well, wait, your sales are going to go down, and there's so many stocks. I want a stock where it's going up. That's why Amazon and Apple got crushed, because they're missing their numbers or hitting their numbers, but missing their future. Well, I don't want to, so I dump it. But see, as everybody, there's nowhere else to go. There's only those 4 or 5 stocks, right? They're going to have to go to gold, but we'll see. But Bitcoin's 54. Huh. Watch it go to 40.
Due to weak outlook for the third quarter of 2024. For quarter 3, Amazon estimates that revenue will come in between 154 to 158.5 billion, compared to analyst forecasts of 158.43 billion. In addition, operating income is expected to come in between 11.5 billion and 15 billion, compared to estimates of 15.2 billion. While the cloud business beat revenue estimates and earnings per share came in well above the estimate, estimates, Wall Street was still solely focused on the forward-looking guidance. From the peak in July, Amazon stock is now down about 16% overall. Continuing the trend here of the big tech sell-off is Microsoft. Microsoft reported solid earnings for the second quarter of 2024 with revenue and earnings per share that beat Wall Street estimates. However, a slight miss in the cloud business, specifically the intelligent cloud segment, led to a sell-off taking place. Microsoft stock initially sold off 7% after reporting earnings after the bell on Tuesday, but has since recovered slightly. Overall, Microsoft stock is now down 12.5% from the high in July. But this market sell-off is not just limited to big tech stocks. In fact, major U.S. banks took a huge hit on Friday as well. Bank of America stock dropped almost 5% on Friday, bringing the overall drop to 15% from the highs of July. This was partially due to Warren Buffett also selling off billions of dollars worth of Bank of America stock in addition to Apple stock. This banking-related sell-off also affected Wells Fargo, which dropped almost 6.5% in Friday's trading session alone. So what is actually causing this major sell-off in U.S. equities?
Today, we got a huge shipment of new electronics that we're going to be selling for less than retail on the Whatnot app.
The first and biggest reason behind this major market sell-off is the jobs report that came out on Friday. In July, 114,000 new jobs were added as compared to 179,000 in June and 216,000 the month before.
Why the fuck would the jobs report that's fixed, it's not even accurate, be a reason to sell your stock? The inflation is the reason you sell your stock. The jobs report, which is not accurate, why would I even look at it? And then why would I sell my stock based on it? Less people working or less people are going to buy Amazon? I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Overall, job growth came in much lower than expected, and this sparked significant fears of economic slowdown. Over the past 12 months, the average figure for new jobs created monthly has been 215,000. So this July figure of 114,000 new jobs created is roughly half of the average over the last 12 months, potentially indicating a significant slowdown in the labor market. In addition, the overall unemployment rate in July ticked upward to 4.3% compared to 4.1% in June and 3.7% at the beginning of the year. Unemployment came in at the highest rate since October of 2021, bringing about significant concerns of a broader economic slowdown. And this leads us into the second major reason for the market sell-off, and that is interest rates. With clear indications of economic slowdown present and inflation cooling off, many expected the Federal Reserve would finally cut interest rates at their latest meeting. However, at the latest Fed meeting on Wednesday, interest rates were held steady at the current 23-year high. During this higher interest rate period, the Fed has been pointing to a robust job market as an indication that the economy was strong. But the last 3 months of data points to a potential trend reversal in the job market. Now, many have criticized the Fed in the past for being too slow to respond to the high inflation caused by the pandemic spending. Now, there are many who are concerned that rates have been held too high for too long, forcing an economic slowdown.
Okay, so it's hard to listen to this guy. He doesn't know what inflation is. But the recession's already been here for 2 years. I don't know. So what do I say? The Titanic hits the iceberg, which is going to cause the water to come in, which is going to cause the boat to crash, or the boat to sink, which means I got to get to the lifeboat now. So A causes B, causes C, causes D. So what they're saying is, well, if the unemployment rate went up, then that's going to cause a recession. I'm not quite sure I follow the link. Why would it cause a recession? All right, less people working, but you have a lot of retirees that are on Social Security, a lot of summer jobs that maybe are over, or maybe there's other problems. And then you got all these people coming through the border that who knows how that's being at, and the fact that the stats aren't accurate. But the recession is measured by the inflation. You raise costs because of the inflation, the dollar's worth less. Takes more dollars to buy stuff. That's your recession. And by the way, it happened 2 years ago. Also, by the way, You do not measure inflation by prices, and inflation is not 2%. That's all fantasy land. That is not anywhere near it. So if you're stupid enough to think inflation's 2%, I got some oceanfront property here in Detroit to sell you, and we don't have an ocean anywhere near us. That's the problem. You don't understand your variables. Regardless of what unemployment is, it's the money. You fucked the money up. You printed too much. You've caused the inflation, which you cannot measure by percentage. 21 trillion printed, and the fact that petrodollar is gone is the reason to be scared and to buy gold, not because an unemployment figure, which is probably fucked, says 4%. 4%'s nothing. How many of the seniors who are on Social Security are in that number, right? So I don't, I'm not buying any of that. That is not how you look at it. And you cannot say inflation's down to 2%, so everything's good. So they're lower interest rates, so I'm going to buy stock or sell stock. It's all about the dollar being printed to death. That's the whole game. That's it. That's the boat. And once you inflate the dollar to zero, everything else doesn't matter. You're fucked at that point. Only if you have gold and silver, or you're not. And then you see the silver down a little bit and the gold down a little bit on paper because of derivatives, not on people selling or anything else. It is strictly derivatives. It is strictly JP Morgan. So what the fuck are they talking about here? This is absolutely insanity. It's got nothing to do with unemployment. Yeah, maybe if more people are unemployed, you're going to have a slowdown, but you're not getting the cause. You're getting the effect. The cause is the inflation. Prices go up. People can't compete. People can't sell it at market. That's why it goes, and it's got nothing to do. The unemployment's after the fact. If you understand the inflation, that's why markets go down. But to answer Luke's question about Warren Buffett, he to answer that question, he's basically he's selling stocks to get into money, but what he's getting into is monopoly money, not gold. He should be in gold. He's an idiot. Thank you.
Down to take place. Inflation is cooling off, with the latest reading being 3% compared to 3.3% in the same period of last year.
Okay, at that point, it's really hard to listen because that's the biggest, stupidest comment I've ever heard. 3%. You do not measure it in prices. You measure in dollars. The dollar, the inflated money supply is the inflation. So what the fuck is 3%? Who said year over year is the way to measure inflation? Who said that? The Keynesians, the MMT folks who want to print the money to death, who are printing the money to death in every freaking Western country. Canada's out, the UK's out, the Euro's out, Germany's out. Well, yeah, let's just keep printing the money. Not a problem. I mean, it's all fucked. But to say 2%, just roll your eyes. You can't measure it because different goods have different prices. Certain things in the market, you can raise the price, and certain things you can't. And when Coke tries to sell their pop at $2.95 for a 2-liter and nobody buys it, then they go, oh, buy one, get one half off, or buy 3, buy 2, get 1 free. So now it's really $2. Oh, yeah, but they're not smart enough to figure that out. It's incredibly stupid. You can only raise prices on certain things, and the market won't allow other things. If golf clubs wanted to go from $500 to $2,000, you think they sell any golf clubs? I don't think so. So you can't measure it in prices. It's a stupid analogy.
However, this is still well above the Fed's long-term target of 2% inflation. Now, there was indication that the Fed might cut interest rates as soon as their next meeting in September. This would be a benefit for the overall economy, as it would lower borrowing costs for Americans across the board for things like credit cards, auto loans, and even mortgages. But right now, the Fed is stuck between a rock and a hard
place. If they cut rates too soon, this could cause inflation to reverse its current trend and begin increasing again. But on the other hand, if they wait too long, this could potentially force an economic slowdown to take place and potentially push us into a recession. The next jobs report, as well as CPI report, will be a major catalyst for the stock market, be it a good one or a bad one. Now, the final reason for this major market sell-off ties back in with the big tech stocks, and that is overall AI disappointment. Almost every major company out there is trying to jump on the artificial intelligence bandwagon, and this is resulting in significant spending. Nvidia has undoubtedly benefited the most from this AI trend, and all of the big tech companies are trying to follow in their footsteps. But this is resulting in billions of dollars being dumped into AI advancements. However, the AI buzz is wearing off for Wall Street, and all of that spending is now being looked at as a hindrance on earnings. These investments in artificial intelligence technology won't bear fruit immediately, and investors are losing patience.
Well, it's called return on investment. So if I do AI, what's my return? Am I going to make 20% because I went into AI? I'm not going to make anything, or I lose money because it doesn't work. We know it doesn't work. I don't want anything to do with AI. I don't need AI. I don't need, that's all I need is Arnold Schwarzenegger to Terminator and stuff. That's all bullshit. We don't need that. There's nothing wrong with people doing it because it takes away. In other words, I have a gut feeling on San Francisco, but if I used AI, the gut feeling wouldn't be there. It would be go for 4th down and 2 because that's what you should do, because that's what AI says. And they don't factor in who they're playing, the score, where they are on the field. Oh, it's the Niners. No, AI says go for it on 4th and 2. We go for it. Oh, we lost the game. Oh, well, I had to done it again. Yeah, you'd have lost again. That's what AI does. It takes the intelligence, your intuition away. It's like these idiot managers in baseball. Well, it's a lefty. I'm going to take a lefty out of the bullpen. He gives up a 3-run homer. Probably not the best thing to do is just automatically go to a lefty against a lefty, go for it on 4th and 2, go for 2 after a touchdown. Man, it depends who you're playing. All right, we're almost done with
In addition, the valuations for the Magnificent Seven have climbed so high that they've become priced for perfection. And when that happens, a major sell-off is nearly guaranteed when there is even the slightest whiff of bad news. So that's what's happening in the stock market right now.
All right, I don't know how good that guy was, but all a bunch of bullshit. It's all based on the inflation. Let's see. All right, let's watch this one. How China plans to avoid economic collapse. I haven't watched it. I assume it's because of gold, but let's see.
For living and not for speculation, China pushed. Evergrande is one of the largest real estate developers in China. Its critical situation, with defaults of more than $120 billion, is already well known. But now, the China Securities and Exchange Regulatory Commission has accused the company of having inflated its revenues by more than $72 billion. In other words, the Chinese real estate boom could be worse than we imagined. With housing and other property prices in freefall since 2021, China's major construction companies have been inching closer and closer to bankruptcy. And the problem becomes even bigger if we take into account that the real estate sector represents more than 20% of the entire Chinese economy. It is the main economic driver of the Asian giant, even more than exports. The question is, can a definitive collapse be avoided? What is the Chinese government doing to solve the real estate crisis? The truth is that the future does not look rosy. In fact, back in 2020, Xi Jinping's people tried to prick the bubble in a controlled manner. China had become one of the countries with the highest corporate debt, largely due to developers such as Evergrande, which is the second most indebted company in the world, taking on debt up to their necks to build housing. The government was afraid that the real estate boom would get out of hand, especially when its neighbor, Japan, had a similar crisis in the 1990s. It was then that under the slogan, "Housing is for living and not for speculation," China pushed through the so-called 3 red lines. In other words, 3 financial requirements for all real estate companies to bring them into line. First, companies had to reduce their liabilities to less than 70% of the value of their assets. Second, a company's net debt, that is, its debt minus short-term assets such as cash, could not exceed the company's net worth. And third, the cash available had to be sufficient to pay short-term debts. In essence, the 3 red lines served to limit the company's indebtedness and ensure their solvency. However, when the restrictions came into effect, virtually none of the country's major developers managed to meet the red lines requirements. The debt was already so large that it had become unmanageable. Groups such as Evergrande had net debts 81% higher than those permissible under the 3 red lines. But the government also ordered banks to limit lending to the sector. The result, without the ability to continue borrowing, the companies were unable to repay previous debts, and the lack of funds caused a large number of construction projects to be stopped dead in their tracks, which limited the company's revenues. 46 major Chinese real estate companies went into a severe liquidity crisis. Millions of buyers were left without the homes they had already paid for, and if we add to this the pandemic, it was at that point that the bubble that we all know now burst. Ironically enough, it was the government's attempt to control the bubble that actually started its collapse. So what if the government hadn't seen it coming? Well, what they expected was a controlled demolition, and the problem came when COVID added enough gunpowder to blow the whole thing up. They quickly realized that such a steep drop could spread to the rest of the economy, and that's not the worst of it. Housing is by far the main savings mechanism for Chinese households. In other words, if housing values plummet, household wealth would plummet.
China's real estate meltdown is battering middle-class wealth.
What was once a controlled demolition of a debt-ridden sector is now a crusher of the wealth of the new middle class. Now the government wants to avoid a situation like the one Japan suffered during the 1990s, so they must deflate the housing bubble, control debt levels, and reduce prices in a controlled manner. But on the other hand, they can't do that, because it would cause an unprecedented financial collapse. Is there a solution? Now, Xi Jinping's administration has finally decided to act. The first thing it needs is time, and that is why it has reprimed the real estate bubble to keep it from bursting. To this end, the Chinese central bank has reduced the cash ratio by almost 2 points. That is, banks can now lend more money. Likewise, the requirements necessary to obtain a mortgage have been considerably relaxed. For example, last May, the government reduced the down payment on mortgages from 20% of the price of the house to only 15%. And if all that has been mentioned had not been enough, a $41 billion stimulus program has been announced to buy back vacant real estate held by state-owned enterprises. But will this really do any good? Put another way, repriming the bubble may delay the problem, yes, but not avoid it. However, there is still a second part to this plan.
The road to a new economy.
If there is something even more important in China than its real estate sector, it's its industry. In recent decades, it has grown a lot thanks to exports. This has made the Chinese economy dependent on meeting international demand, while domestic consumption represents a very small fraction. In other words, the integrity of its entire economic system now depends on maintaining its dominance over international trade. Of course, that was an easy task in the early 2000s when globalization reached its peak. However, with the current trade war with the West, everything has taken a 180-degree turn.
Biden announces 100% tariff on Chinese-made electric vehicles. EU threatens China EVs with tariffs of up to 38%.
And what does all this have to do with the Xi Jinping's government's encouragement of the housing market? The truth is more than you can imagine. More than you can imagine. The growing protectionist tendency of the Western Bloc and other countries calls into question China's entire economic model. Remember, dependence on exports. If the international market is closed to products made by foreign companies, as is the case of foreign cars, there is not much the Asian giant can do to avoid a generalized collapse of its entire export sector, and therefore of its entire economy. Now, the solution to this problem seems simple. Make China less dependent on exports and more dependent on domestic consumption. In other words, companies should stop producing so many goods for the international market and start producing more goods for the local market. However, such a transformation cannot take place if household purchasing power does not increase strongly enough, something that the real estate crisis is not helping at all. After all, would you buy a new television or go on vacation if most of your savings disappeared overnight? Well, most probably not. And if your government promises you that everything will be fine and that you don't have to worry about the situation of your savings, even less so. Joking aside, China's transformation from an export-based economy to a domestic consumption-based economy is already on track. Last year alone, when tensions with the United States were mounting, China's economic growth was driven 82.5% by the country's domestic consumption, an unprecedented figure for an economy so heavily reliant on international trade. The government's idea is that while it puts the real estate boom on hold, it can allocate sufficient time and resources to boost other sectors of the domestic economy.
China unveils policy incentives to boost consumption.
The Chinese government has already introduced incentives to stimulate the domestic purchase of electric cars, in addition to reducing bureaucratic and regulatory requirements on electric car transactions. You know, the same cars that will no longer be sold so easily in the rest of the world. And the same thing is happening with cell phones and laptops.
Shenzhen to give out electronic subsidies for Huawei, Oppo, Vivo products to boost economy in China's Southern Tech Hub. China's Southern Technology Hub of Shenzhen is turning to subsidies to help boost consumption of a range of electronics and other products that include smartphones, laptops, and drones.
Of course, all this will not be cheap, nor is it without issues. China currently has a problem known as overcapacity. That is, it produces far more than it needs, not only for its citizens, but for the rest of the world. Basically, due to subsidies to their industry, companies have disproportionately increased production. And naturally, if there was already overproduction with the global market, won't it be even worse if China limits itself to domestic consumption? Yes, in any case, the government intends to encourage consumption in the most rural areas of the country. These are really poor, isolated areas that have not received enough support from the regime so far. In other words, the idea is not just to focus on the Chinese, who already consume a lot, but that the poor Chinese will be incorporated into the overall economic engine. To this end, the state has begun to invest in digital commerce systems, infrastructure, and is supporting the sale of rural products in large cities. For now, it seems that China is succeeding in this regard, but as we have already mentioned, without solving the problem of the real estate crisis and the use of housing as an investment and savings vehicle for Chinese middle-class families, the transition to a new consumer economy seems rather unlikely. Even more so if we take into account the enormous cost of this plan, the fact that a large part of consumption will depend on public spending, and that China has a very significant overcapacity problem. But what do you think will happen? Do you think that if China continues to stimulate the real estate bubble, they will enter a period of speculation like Japan did in the 90s? Will the domestic consumption plan work? Or will it be a case of bread for today and famine tomorrow? Don't hesitate to leave us your opinion.
Well, the only thing China's got going for them is gold. That'll save them. The rest is bullshit. This is what you get in a communist economy. There was one thing I wanted to do. I can find it. China leaving real quickly. Okay.
I've been a hairstylist for 15 years and I've tried out hundreds of shampoos, but this is the one thing that has helped me get thicker.
Nobody cares.
On July 23rd, Japan's new...
Okay, 100 Japanese firms leaving China in 3 years, fearing the inability to leave later. So they're panicking and they're getting out. So let's watch a little of this, but I want to get to the 12-minute mark.
Nippon Steel Corporation announced it will end its 20-year joint venture with China's Baosteel. The contract will be terminated at the end of August when it expires. Nippon Steel finds it challenging to expand its business in China and plans to focus its investment resources in the United States and India. Nippon Steel stated that it plans to sell all its shares in the joint venture BNA to Baosteel for 1.76 billion renminbi, approximately 241 million US dollars, but this sale requires regulatory approval. Interestingly, during the joint venture, Nippon Steel filed a lawsuit in Japan in 2021 against Baosteel, alleging infringement on its electromagnetic steel sheet patent. This non-oriented electromagnetic steel was supplied by Baosteel to Toyota for electric vehicle manufacturing, so Nippon Steel also sued Toyota, seeking 20 billion yen in damages from both companies. The case is still ongoing. This is the latest instance of foreign companies withdrawing from China. Just a few days ago, on July 12th, Japanese construction machinery manufacturer Kato Works announced on its website that it would dissolve and liquidate its hydraulic excavator manufacturing and sales subsidiary in Kunshan, Jiangsu Province. Additionally, Kato Nakajima Xiamen Construction Machinery Company began its liquidation process in August. After these closures, Kato Works will exit the Chinese market. The exodus of foreign capital from China is spreading from manufacturing to the beauty product sector. Japanese beauty brand Shiseido's high-end skincare line, Baum, announced it will withdraw from the Chinese market. The Baum Tmall flagship store recently posted a closure notice, stating it will no longer accept new orders starting July 10th. In 2024, another Japanese company, Bridgestone, announced its withdrawal. After more than 20 years in China, Bridgestone stated on February 27th that it will stop producing and selling commercial vehicle tires in China and will focus on high-performance passenger car tires instead. Public information shows that last year, the majority of well-known global companies that left China were Japanese. These include the manufacturing plants of Canon, Sony, Toshiba, and Nikon. Other companies that have left China include Amazon, LinkedIn, and Astellas Pharma's R&D center. These companies have shifted their supply chains to Thailand, the Philippines, or their home countries. In 2023, the topic of foreign capital withdrawing from China has gained attention. Earlier this year, global asset management firm Natixis analyzed that this trend would continue. In response to foreign companies leaving, China's Ministry of Commerce emphasized that the inflow and outflow of foreign capital are in line with market rules and claimed that the withdrawal narrative is hyped by external parties.
So two things going on here. One, China used to be a really cheap place, right? I was working at Ford and they in the 80s and they went to China because it was cheap. So they moved their plant like they do to Mexico now or India where the labor's cheap. But now it isn't. And then all of it, and then you have the communist part where they're afraid they won't be able to leave because as China goes broke, they need the money and they'll just take it and they won't let them leave. So you got to be careful with a communist country that they won't let you out the door. So those are the two things that's going on here. They're afraid of China going broke and needing the money and stealing it. All right, I want to go to about the 12-minute mark. Let's go here.
Further leads to a disconnect between the business operations in China and their headquarters. This economic and political environment has a very negative impact on foreign businesses operating in China. According to official Chinese data, foreign direct investment in China in the second half of 2023 was 4.9 billion US dollars, 87% year-on-year decrease, marking the first drop since comparable data was first published in 1998. The European Chamber of Commerce in China, in a survey report published in June 2023, stated that due to the lack of a strong post-pandemic economic recovery in China and the impact of the expanded implementation of the anti-espionage law, foreign companies are losing confidence and are moving their investments and headquarters away. In the EU Chamber of Commerce 2023 Business Confidence Survey, a record 64% of respondents said it was more difficult to do business in China compared to the same period last year. Jens Eskelund, president of the European Chamber of Commerce in China, told the media that business confidence in China has basically hit the lowest point since we have records, and there is no hope for real improvement in the regulatory environment over the next 5 years. Is the geopolitical influence and the conflict of values between China and the West. He indicated that foreign companies do not feel safe in China because it is not a market economy and a society ruled by law. Instead, everything is determined by the party. For foreign companies that have been deeply rooted in.
What? Okay, so that last comment, isn't that what gold is? It's not a market economy. It's ruled by the government. And that's what we have with gold and silver. It's not a market price. It's ruled by the banks, JP Morgan specifically. So they're setting the price of the derivatives. And that's what she just said. In China, it's not a market price. It's the government setting the price. And this is the problem with communism and socialism. The government tries to set prices, but they're not allowed to. They're not able to. It doesn't work because you don't know demand, supply, all that stuff plays factors into it. You cannot have the government making the market, making the prices. It's got to be free market. So I wanted to play that because that's exactly what's going on in gold. It is not free market. It is the government, or in this case, the banks, which is the same thing here. The banks are the government setting the price using these stupid derivatives. So that's what I wanted you to see. Well, there's a couple minutes left.
China for decades, there is also the issue of capital withdrawal. The Financial Times reported on March 15th that with the tightening of the regulatory environment and increasing geopolitical tensions, American institutions with private equity investments in China finding it difficult to exit their investments. 4 U.S. public pension funds, which have allocated more than $4 billion to China-focused private equity funds, said they are preparing to delay redeeming investments that are nearing the 10-year mark.
Oh no, we're embarrassed. We screwed up. Our warehouse is overloaded with survival food kits, but our
investments that are nearing the 10-year mark. The hesitation of these 4 U.S. public pension funds reflects a concern. Alan Waldrop, director of private equity at the Alaska Permanent Fund, said, China has been a place where you could deploy capital, but getting it out is harder. Now it's a much more severe issue. For most of the past decade, U.S.-backed private equity funds have been among the most active investors in China's booming consumer and internet industries. Even after the U.S.-China trade war broke out, the investment boom continued. In 2022, when Beijing began data security reviews for companies seeking overseas listings, the IPO boom that allowed hundreds of Chinese companies to list in New York came to an abrupt halt. Data from financial information provider Crunchbase shows that in 2022, U.S. private equity and venture capital investments in China also fell by 68% year-on-year. While the Federal Reserve's aggressive rate hikes have had a broad impact on IPOs in the U.S., Beijing has played an equally significant, if not greater role in preventing Chinese companies from listing overseas. For example, in July 2021, Chinese ride-hailing giant Didi, which had just listed in the U.S., faced a review by domestic regulatory authorities. China's Cybersecurity Review Office stated it was investigating Didi and suspended new user registrations during the review. While most foreign investors do not have to make immediate decisions, they recognize that as more private equity funds reach their 10-year mark and are due to be liquidated, the risks in the coming years will increase further. An executive from a second U.S. public pension fund, which has a dozen private equity projects in China, said, "The fact that we cannot exit is certainly worrying, and any unexpected extension of the investment life cycle will affect the future deployment of its funds." The American Chamber of Commerce in China released its 2024 report, showing that American companies in China face a complex outlook in 2024, with more than a third of the respondents feeling less welcome in China. They expressed concerns about market openness, market access, and unfair treatment in a regulatory enforcement. According to data from the Chinese Ministry of Commerce, new foreign direct investment in 2023 fell by 8% to about $160 billion, the lowest level in 3 years. In the first 2 months of 2024, the decline rate accelerated to 20%. China's State Administration of Foreign Exchange, using different accounting statistics, showed that foreign direct investment inflows into China in 2023 fell by 80%, the lowest in 30 years, raising further doubts about China's market attractiveness. Besides these statistics, various surveys conducted among foreign companies operating in China also indicated that they believe the business environment in China is deteriorating.
All right, so that's it. I wanted to show you the free market versus market control. That's critical. That's what the gold and silver price is, but it's not the Rolex and the mantle cards. So you need to understand. So when we see gold go down, it's price fixed by the government. It's not free market. Nobody's selling gold. Nobody's consolidating. It's bullshit. It's derivatives. JP Morgan's sitting there going, yeah, we want the price lowered. Or they might just be shorting it when it goes up, selling it first and buying it cheaper. And that might not have anything to do with anything about price, just the fact it's high, because they obviously can't control the price at 1900 or 2000. It's at 24. Let's take a look at where we are, 536. And let's see. Gold price is 10, 12, 2, 4, 530. It's at 2409. So we're holding up fine. So we got a little scare when it went from 2456 down to 2441, down to 2368. We're going, oh shit, back to 23. But immediately we got back to 2409. So I think they took their shot here at 4 in the morning till 8 in the morning. So that was their big derivative, their put, and then it went back up. So I think they made money on that. So they're making money on the derivatives, what they're on the option. So they're selling it. It goes down from 24.40, goes down $80. They sell it. That's all that's happening. It's got nothing to do with demand, supply, market rate for gold. That's the point. So when Egon sits there and says, "Oh, it's going to go to 3,400 or more," that the revaluation of bricks in October of gold will probably be, I don't know. It should be 10 grand, but then maybe they'll do 5 and then step it up to 10, and hopefully it's more of a free market. That's what we want to see. Silver's just, I don't know why silver's down, but it's really it's cheap because it's not free market, right? That's why I tell you these prices, they're not free market. They're bank / government, which is the same thing, controlled. That's why the Rolex is 60,000 and the mantle card 70,000. Those are free market. And that's where gold will be if we can get a free market, get out of this stupid COMEX bullshit. But everybody's buying gold. You can see the stock market's crashing is going to jump everybody into gold because nobody wants to lose money. It's like nobody getting hurt. No. He might get hurt if we play Caleb. We can't do that. All right, 2409 is good. Let's go through baseball again. We got Cleveland, 2 units. Frisco over 9, 3 units. Houston over 8.5, 3 units. Minnesota over 8, 5 units. Kansas City, 3 units. The Raiders, 3 units. And Philadelphia, 3 units. And that's the bottom line because Stone Cold says so. So that's where we're at. Anything else? Questions, comments? Stock market. Let's see where it's at now. It was down 1,000. One hour ago, U.S. stocks slid Monday amid heightened volatility and a global sell-off. The Dow declined 1,034 points. So there you go. Looks like our derivative. There goes the stock market. I mean, are you kidding me? Signs of global economy slowing now? I told you that 2 years ago, that if prices go up, which is what inflation is, It's not prices going, it's the dollar being worth less. So therefore it loses its value. Therefore, you need more dollars to buy the same shit. Therefore, you're going to have a slowing economy because the money's worth less, so it looks like prices have gone up. So you buy less with the same amount, and the dollar's worth 98. It's lost 98.5% of its value. So basically, the dollar's worthless. So of course you're having a recession because things are too expensive to buy because the dollar's worthless. So the quicker you buy gold, the quicker you can save yourself. But if you don't have gold and you just sit there and you're Warren Buffett and you sell all this stock and you just keep it in cash, bye-bye, because it's monopoly money. Basically, you have monopoly money, and basically with monopoly money, you're basically fucked. What good is it? Only if you're playing Monopoly is it any good. So you want real money and just buy gold. No risk. Return on investment's huge. It's going to be thousands of percent. You're going to go from 2,400, now 2,500 to 20, 30,000. And you can do the same with the Rolex, but Rolex isn't money. But that's what you do. I mean, that's the way to go. The stocks are stocks are for suckers. I mean, if you think about it, if you would just buy Rolex and gold, you'd never work a day in your life again. The Rolexes always go up because they take a year to make, and they're very good about making them, and they're very much in demand. So the price is never going to go down. And you can, as it gets used, it becomes more valuable because I can give it to you now. So that's the key. Do you want to buy a $50,000 Rolex and wait a year? And no, you don't want to wait a year. You want it now because people have no patience. So therefore, it's like, look at us with gold. We want gold at 10,000 an ounce right now. We don't want to hear shit. We don't want, 24. It's 24.09. We want it at 3,000. We want it at 10,000. Today, tomorrow, like who are you kidding? But so if you want a Rolex, it's $60,000, but you got to wait a year. Or you know what? I have one. I'll give it to you now, 80,000, and you jump on it because you want it now. You don't have patience. That's what a lot of people don't have. In stocks and the bank and everything else. You're not gonna get your money out of the bank. You got 200,000-300,000 in the bank, you're fucked. You'll never get it out. They'll start delaying it. Like I show you these Chinese videos. People go to get their money out of the Chinese banks. Oh, sorry, you can only get for your safety, you can only get $200 out. How are you gonna get 500,000 out? So you buy your gold, nobody can fuck with you. You got it in your hand, nobody can fuck with you. The stocks, I know Luke and I have a nice little conversation about he wants to buy the golden miners stocks, which is good depending on the time. It's not good now because people are getting scared and dumping all their stocks. The stocks went down 1,033 points, right? So it's what, 39,000 now? Well, Dow drops 1,000 points and Japanese stocks suffer worst crash since 1987 because they're inflated. Their money has no value. People aren't working. It's coming here. Who's going to buy our stuff if they're not working, right? See, that's the thing. Who's going to buy our stuff? Well, I think the Chinese, and it's not the Japanese. It's going to be the Africans because they have a lot of gold. Or it's going to be India because they have gold, or Russia because they have gold. Oh, but they can't buy our stuff. So keep that in mind. The recession's been here. It ain't here. It's been here. Inflation is nowhere near 2%. It can't be measured in percent. Who says the best way to do it is year over year? Who says that? Where did that come from? Is it proven? Really? Because it's a terrible way to measure it because it's based on money supply. So if it goes from 20 trillion to 21 trillion, how the fuck does that be 2%? No. And then with the petrodollar gone and everybody de-dollarizing, inflation's much, much more because they sell the dollars to get out of the treasuries. So what's Japan and China now are selling $1 trillion of treasury, and they buy gold with it, and then all that money comes back to the U.S. So even more inflation. So the inflation gets compounded. There's no way inflation's 2%. There's no way it's 20. It's much higher than 20. Luke, it's a hot mess, this financial world. Well, it's simple. If you would stay on the gold-backed currency, it's a piece of cake. You have no interest rate, you have no inflation, you have no war, you have no depressions. Everything's very easy. Oh, wait, but you can't have the corruption that the government wants to have with the gold standard. They can't print the money. So, yeah, we can't have that. We'd hate to have a good, honest dollar with no wars, no inflation, no depressions. That would be too easy. My brokerage account was unacceptable today between 10 and 1 because of the shit show mess. That's my wait till the banks happen. You're going to want to get your money out of the bank and you're going to get the same shit. Unacceptable. Yeah, that's what I thought you meant. So this is what's going to happen to the banks, or I showed you from China is they limit you. Oh, you got 300 grand in the bank, you can take out $100. But I want to take out 100 grand. Sorry. That's when you walk to the gold store, use your debit card, and say, I'd like to buy $100,000 worth of gold with my debit card. And I don't care if you charge me 3%, because I'll never get my money out of the bank. It's going to be stuck to. That's why Warren Buffett should not have. Where's his money? What? It's in a bank or it's in Mutual of Omaha. That's why you get the gold and you put it in your hand. You don't put it in a stock. You don't leave it in the bank. You put it in your hand. And you got a shitload at home and it's in your hand and it's safe and nobody can fuck with you. That's what you want. You've got to be thinking like that these people aren't going to want to lose. So the banks are going to lose their ass with these higher interest rates once everything that's at 0% rolls into now it's 5%, and we got to get out of it. Once you have that, you're fucked. I mean, the banks, there's like 249 banks in trouble, probably more than that. You can't trust the banks. Look at the stock market. They didn't let it. For 3 hours, you couldn't, okay, your gold and silver stocks, I don't know what they did. But I doubt they went up today. I would bet without looking, they lost money today. See, take today as the example. Look, if they lost money, New Mount Mining loses money today, that's what you got to look forward to. That's why I'm saying get the fuck out. Don't worry about buying your house. You'll have the gold to buy the house. But how many people are smart enough to buy the gold? That's the point. None. Very little, just the central banks and us and the people at Costco buying these little gold bars. That's the point. I don't even understand the premiums on the gold. They're not. They're just numbers pulled out of the air. They're not practical to anything. It's not the real price of gold. They're just trying to get $100 on the sale of an ounce. They get on. You pay $100 for able to get it. Well, I'd gladly pay $100 to get an ounce of gold, because if he doesn't have it, I can't get it. I don't want to be stuck in dollars. So anyway, that's where we're at. So be careful. They don't want to lose money, the bankers / the government. So I did want you to see that where it's not a market price. That's how China is on a lot of stuff. It's government pricing, not market price. And that's what gold is. It's government price, i.e. JP Morgan, because the banks run the government, right? Don't forget that critical thing. The banks are controlling the U.S. They run the government, not the other way around. That's all the lobbyists are. The lobbyists come in and give them $1 million. Guess what? They're going to do what the lobbyists want. Lobbyists are all bankers or the national defense contractors or whatever. So they're going to do that. They don't a brain in their head, these congressmen. So, I mean, look at the Secret Service. What a bunch of idiots that was. Lucas, Warren Buffett has to do what they say. Should he go out and buy all the silver and gold? Yes, but they won't let him or it would ruin their Ponzi. Who is controlling Warren Buffett? What are you talking about? The government won't let him? They won't let him or it would ruin their Ponzi. Well, their Ponzi's pretty much ruined. I don't know that him buying gold and silver is ruining the Ponzi. But he's too stupid to own gold. He doesn't understand it. This is amazing. The powers that be. Oh, George Soros wouldn't like it. Yeah. I don't know. I keep seeing they're planning something big here, this reset or whatever. It's only in the paper world. It's not in our gold world. Then I showed you yesterday where Powell said, don't worry about CBDCs. It's not going to happen. Now, do we trust them? Absolutely not, but we don't think it'll happen. The banks won't let it happen. JP Morgan's not going out of business for CBDCs. That is never going to happen. And really, the Fed, the central bank can't possibly have enough people and staff to run 350, it's probably 400 billion people or million, whatever, 450 million. God, that's small when you compare to China and India. They got billions of people. But how can the central bank anywhere do it? They can't. They're not set up. The central banks are there to run the banks. The banks are there to deal with the people. So how the fuck can you possibly do a CBDC? It's insane. There's no way it's possible. Maybe, as you say, the bankers. Well, I don't know that the bankers. I mean, so he could run to my coin store and come in and say, "Yeah, the professor told me to buy gold, so here's here's $1 billion. Just whatever I can buy in gold, buy it." That's what he should do. I don't know why he doesn't. He can't lose. It's better than being in dollars that are depreciating to be in appreciating gold, right? Wouldn't you rather be in gold that's going up than dollars that's lost 98.5% of the value? And the funny part is you can still buy gold with the piece of crap dollar. It's lost 98.5% and you can still buy gold. Now, granted, you can't buy it for $37 an ounce. You got to pay $2,500, but you can still use the dollar, and that is not going to last. Soon you won't be able to find gold, and it's certainly not going to be for $2,500. You'll see. Here comes BRICS. There goes the dollar. Who's going to want it? Saudi Arabia doesn't want dollars for their oil. That's why they didn't renew it. They don't want dollars for their oil. The dollars are worthless. They know that. All the central banks are buying gold. No, the dollars are worthless. It's not a surprise. They know you can't print and print and print. What was that Egon quote? I think I showed you that they're printing all this dollars. They're bankrupt. So if you understand what Egon's telling and what Igan's telling, and I'm one of the few that understand what Egon's saying, that's the point. We're broke, right? So if you owned $1 million in credit card balance and you make 200,000 a year, are you broke? Probably. How are you going to pay the credit cards back? How are we going to pay the debt? We can't. You can't react like, oh, don't worry, or we'll just pay it back anyway. You can't pay it back. You're broke. You're bankrupt. You owe $36 trillion. And everybody just ignores it like, oh, it's no big deal. Oh, look, it's 37 trillion. It's 38 trillion. It's 50 trillion. It ain't going to get to 50 trillion. We'll be gone before then. The dollar will be worthless. And then and then we don't have 8,000 tons of gold. I can't believe that idiot said that. It's not ours. There might be 8,000 tons. It's China's. So we don't even have the gold in your Fort Knox, nor do we have enough to have a gold-backed currency. So we're totally fucked because gold-backed currency beats fiat paper every time. And that's what we got, unfortunately. So that's the problem. And with that, it's time for dinner. I got to text Jetta about the job. Well, I texted her. She wants information. I'll give her what I can. Um, and that's it. So we will see. But I'm so happy to be back to work just because I know the recession, right? I know I'll never find a job in the autos or half the places. And this is good. I got to do my SQL training now. But well, thanks, Luke. You too. I mean, I agree 100% that the gold stocks should be up, but take a look at today. You tell me where the gold stocks were. How did Newmont Mining do? Or some of the other gold stocks? I bet they went down because it's panic. They're not using logic. They're not saying, no, in 1929, it went from 295 to 29. Everything got dumped. So it's not like they said, well, wait, the gold stocks we can keep. The whole market gets killed because it's a panic. It's like the panic getting off the Titanic into the lifeboat at the end, and everybody's panicking because they know they're about to die. And that's what you have. People losing money in this economy. They can't handle it. It's going to be panic, panic, panic. This is the point. You know, so you're using logic. They don't know anything. 99% of these people are in with their financial planner, and what are they? They're all dumping. I'm losing money. I'm losing money. I mean, that's what happens, and then they won't know what to do with their money, and then they'll hopefully go into gold, and they'll be okay. Well, thanks, Luke. I appreciate it. Like I said, I'm very excited. Well, I don't know that they control the spot price. It was there for them to control, but they lost control with the tier one asset in the Basel 3. And gold, they don't control the spot like they used to. Now there's delivery. That's the end of the Ponzi scheme. So when China says, I want to take delivery at that low price, what happened? That price shot back up. It was 1370. It went back. Now it's 20. It was 2370. Now it's back to 2409. They don't control the price. This is more winning on the derivative than it is price control. Oh, the price is up. I can do a derivative. It goes down. So they probably looked at it and saw they could get it all the way down, and then they bought it at that point. So I think there's charts you can see where the stops are. And so when they see, because I've seen derivatives go down $10. This one happened to go down, what, $70? Like, are you kidding me? How is that free market, right? It isn't. So they kind of are losing control of the gold market. They still have it in silver, but as people need the silver for the whatchamacallit, for the solar panels, they need so much silver, they'll just buy it on this off the mines and get their own price. So I think they're losing control of it. That's been the problem. They had the control, and that's why the gold really didn't go up. And it's amazing it's 2,400 in a fixed market, but that's why I'm saying it's about to be blown open by BRICS. So by October, we should be seeing much higher. So that's why I'm glad I got the job now, so I can pound it there. Well, I think they're running to control Bitcoin more, and right now they're controlling silver. They can't control gold. So keep that. That's why silver's not running right now, and it got hit back to 27. It's a buying opportunity. I mean, that's how you got to look at it, because it is fake, but it can't last. And that's the problem. So because it can't last, you just you realize it's the sale of the century silver. Yeah, it'll take a little bit, but Egon thinks it'll be 50, and then it goes, and I'm sure it'll be 500 easy on its way to 2,000. And again, gold goes to 20,000, silver to 2, and that's because we get a free market out of it. That's the point. People don't realize you've been living in a fixed market, price controlled by the government/banks. And we're going to a free market thanks to BRICS. And then you're going to see gold go to its real value, which is much, much higher. So, anyway, anything else? Baseball, we went through. We just went through. Cleveland, 2 units. 49ers over 9, 3 units. Houston over 8.5, 3 units. Minnesota over 8, 5 units. KC, 3 units. The Raiders, 3 units. And Philadelphia, 3 units. What else? So I think that's it. So we want free market gold. I think we're close to gold, but not yet silver. They haven't really made it Basel III compliant. And so they don't have to deliver the silver, I think. But people need the silver, and that's the difference. People must have the silver. I mean, not only is it money, but it's also for the solar panels. So there's a lot used for it, but yes, it's money. And when gold gets too high, then silver takes off because people can't. How many ounces are you going to buy at $5,000 an ounce gold? You're not. But if silver's $100 and it's money, you're going to start buying the silver. So that's why I'm saying buy it all now at these cheap prices. We know they're going up. That's where it's like the Titanic. You need to see the boat sinking to actually realize it's sinking. Well, I know there's a hole in it and we hit an iceberg, but we won't sink. It's unsinkable. The guy at the barbecue place said he heard there was a lot of rich guys on the boat who wanted to end the Federal Reserve, didn't want the Federal Reserve. And that's why the boat sank, because they were against the Federal Reserve, and a year later, the Federal Reserve was there. That was an interesting concept. I haven't heard that except for him, but that makes perfect sense to me. I know airlines are shot down because of passengers on it that they want killed, and everybody else is collateral damage. Just like this Trump shooter, no loose ends. You're not going to ask him what he did. We're taking him out. Instead, they should have kept him and interrogated him instead of killing him. How the hell you let him take 8 shots? What the fuck was that all about? These Secret Service agents should go to jail. This director should go to jail. She should fry for what she did. She was in part of a conspiracy to kill the running president in Trump. So she should go to jail for her part in that. I mean, she was clearly part of it. Just like Mayorkas and Biden and all these idiots should go to jail. They were part of an assassination. I mean, it's insane. Anyway, dinner time is 6 o'clock. So I'm tired and I'm going to go eat. So have a good night. Let's see if we can get gold back, get it to 2,500 this week, which is doable. And we will see. All right. Have a good night. www.teaserking.com. We are a couple of weeks away from college football and a couple more from pro football. So happy times. All right. Take care, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow.